Good afternoon and welcome to Nationwide. I am Ogwa Vivian Onyedibia. President Muhammadu Buhari is on official visit to Zamfara State. Part of the agenda of the visit is security challenges facing the state. Let's now go over to our Sokoto Network Center for more on the president's visit and other reports.
Thank you. A warm welcome to Sokoto, seat of the Caliphate. President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived in Gusau, the Zamfara State capital, on a one-day working visit. Jamilu Ibrahim captured the sight and sounds of the president's arrival.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who arrived in Gusau, the capital of Zamfara State, at about 25 minutes to 11 a.m., is in the state as part of his tour of the states recently affected by terror attacks and communal clashes. He was received on arrival by Zamfara State Governor Abdulaziz Yari, his Kebbi State counterpart Atiku Bagudu, Minister of Defense Mansour Dang Ali, and that of Information Lai Muhammad, members of the National Assembly, security chiefs, party officials, and some other top government functionaries. The president received the Guard of Honor parade before proceeding to the government house Gusau. At the government house, the president is scheduled to meet with the leaders in the state and some other critical stakeholders, including representatives of the communities recently affected by armed bandit attacks across the state. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
Meanwhile, residents of Gusau, the Zamfara State capital, came out en masse to give President Muhammadu Buhari a rousing welcome. Muhammad and Saidu captured the mood of the people.
The arrival of President Muhammadu Buhari to Gusau, the Zamfara State capital, the mood was spectacular. Such is the reception given to President Muhammadu Buhari on his arrival. Gusau, the state capital, was full to capacity by people from all walks of life that came to give the president a warm welcome. Some people who spoke to NTA News described the increasing popularity of Muhammadu Buhari to his style of leadership.
Not in this state, in all the parties who are looking because of the sympathy to his master.
Some also expressed optimism that Mr. President's visit will bring succor to the security situation in the state.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari is holding a town hall meeting with community leaders and stakeholders on the security situation in Zamfara State. We will bring that report in our subsequent bulletin. Progressives Congress APC in Sokoto State has pledged its total support for the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari come 2019. The party says it will mobilize all its supporters and members across the state to ensure total victory of President Muhammadu Buhari along other party flag bearers. Safia Abdullahi completes the report.
The party's position on President Buhari is coming as a group of party members allege divided loyalty over the president's re-election bid. The spokesman of the aggrieved members, Professor Lawal Bashar, alleged that leader of the party has not so far come out publicly to declare support for the re-election of President Buhari.
What we have done now was to write formally to the party APC Sokoto State chapters ESCO, demanding from them to tell us in unequivocal terms whether they support General Buhari's second tenure bid or they are aligning with Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal in this regard.
But Publicity Secretary of APC in Sokoto, Sidi Aliyu Lamidu, debunked the allegation, saying Governor Tambuwal is in full support of President Buhari's government.
The Executive Governor of Sokoto State is very, very loyal and obedient to General Muhammadu Buhari and his leadership.
Many states in the country have already adopted President Buhari as their sole candidate for the 2019 presidential elections. In Sokoto, Safiya Abdullahi, NTA News.
6 northern state governors, Bill and Melinda Gates and Dangote foundations, as well as other development partners, have signed a memorandum of understanding for the extension of community engagement on polio eradication for another 2 years. This was at a one-day stakeholders meeting on the evaluation of successes and challenges of polio eradication in Nigeria. Shehu Muhammad Datti reports that the meeting took place in Sokoto.
In attendance at the high-level meeting were Chairman of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill Gates, Aliko Dangote, Sultan of Sokoto, and traditional rulers from the higher states. Also in attendance were 6 northern state governors of Sokoto, Kaduna, Kano, Borno, Yobe, and Bauchi. Weak delivery system, inadequate financing, lack of training for health workers, and poor demand from communities for immunization were identified as factors for low immunization coverage. The leaders, however, believe that progress has been made so far, as there has no new case in Nigeria for over a year. The participating governors pledged political support to take advantage of the extension to achieve the set goal.
Community engagement dramatically improved with the piloted community engagement strategy implemented in all local government areas in the state.
Primary health is a proven healthcare delivery system that should unequivocally be adopted, supported, and strengthened.
Bill Gates stressed the need for polio campaigns and consistent follow-ups to ensure that all children are adequately vaccinated.
When you compare a child that does not get vaccinated with one that does get vaccinated, the unvaccinated child is over twice as likely to die.
Sultan Muhammad Saad Abubakar acknowledged the effort of traditional institutions in the fight against polio, pledging to continue to encourage routine immunization and vaccination against polio. In Sokoto, Shehu Muhammad Datti, NTA News.
That does it from Sokoto. News Nationwide continues in Abuja. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Salamatu. The freed government girls' science school students have finally arrived Abuja in company of the 4-man delegation led by the Minister of Information. The girls had their release made possible by the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari to all security agencies to do everything possible to secure their release after they were abducted February 19th. Anthony Forson tells us more.
These are the released deputy school girls. They have been in captivity for more than 1 month. Freedom for them was definitely not in sight with the ever-fresh memory of the abducted Chibok girls. But with their release, which was facilitated by the President Muhammadu Buhari's directive, here they are today, 104 of them and 2 others, a boy and a girl. The boy has been identified as a water vendor and the girl not a student of the school. They arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at about 20 minutes past 8 o'clock local time on Wednesday from Maiduguri after about almost a 3.5 hours drive. The theater commander, Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Rogers Nicholas, took time to chronicle the list and placement of the schoolgirls after thorough documentation to ascertain their true identity.
So behind them is GSS 2. These ones here are GSS 2 students. GSS 2. And then behind them is GSS 1 students.
With this done, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed told newsmen how the released children were set free, hence the staggered release of figures.
The insurgents said they were going to unconditionally return the girls themselves to rejoin their families. So when they came, they dropped one of the girls in Gaydam and dropped the rest in Dapchi. Now, when they dropped them in Dapchi, many of the girls went to their parents' houses. So it took this morning to call them together and get an accurate number of how many of them have been returned. If you remember, the first statement we issued, we said 76. But we said, as their developments will let you know. Then they became 91, finally 101. As I speak to you now, I've been reliably informed that we have 105 girls and 1 boy.
With some media platforms already awash with reports of ransom being paid and some swap deal entered, the Information and Culture Minister was quick to debunk such reports.
One of the understandings was that while we negotiate towards total cessation of hostility, there will be no abductions. So for us, it was a moral issue. The government, led by its negotiators, reminded them of the agreement that there will be no abduction, that they've breached that agreement. And that's why there was no swap, there was no money paid. Any other story to the contrary is false.
With a total number of 104 schoolgirls released so far, out of the 110 and 2 children who are not students in the fold, it is clear that 6 out of the girls are yet to be accounted for, and the minister maintained that the students list will give them an opportunity to have a clear picture of how to account for the shortfall.
The task before us now is to look at the list that we had before and then check against, those who have been returned.
For now, they have been taken into a facility where they will undergo medications for further assessment. Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And to legislative matters now, President Muhammadu Buhari and Yobe State Governor Ibrahim Gaidam have been commended for making good on their promises to secure the release of the Dapchi schoolgirls. National Assembly correspondent Dennis Adegunloye reports that this followed a point of order raised by the Senate leader.
I want to take this opportunity to formally not only thank you and the Senate for the support, but also to commend the federal government and the Yobe State government for remaining focused.
Here, commend and thank all our colleagues for all the efforts this chamber leading this effort and standing with the people of Yobe State. Commend the government, the president, and the security agencies in the efforts that they've done in rescuing the girls.
Legislators also confirmed the nominations of Mrs. Aisha Ahmed and Mr. Edward Adamu as deputy governors of the CBN and 3 of 4 nominees as members of the Monetary Policy Committee.
Abiola Festus Adenikiju, Dr. Aliu Ravindadi Sanusi, and Dr. Robert Chikwendu Asogwa are very resourceful, diligent, articulate, competent, and will add the needed value in the operation of the MPC.
The findings of the committee has shown that each of these nominees has an astounding pedigree, duly qualified for the job, and they pass all tests necessary to occupy the position they are nominated for.
On behalf of those of us from this side of the aisle, concur with the appeal that we should expedite the board of the CBN because of the critical role they play. I want to agree entirely with that appeal.
In a rare move, plenary was adjourned briefly and the senators resumed adopting the votes and proceedings. Senate spokesman Aliu Sabi Abdullahi explains.
The central bank has already fixed 3rd and 4th of April, which is next week. That is why we had to do what we did today. Adjourn plenary, come back to approve the votes and proceedings. And effectively, by that approval of the votes and proceedings, the confirmation is now legal and accordingly, the names will be transmitted to the executive by the end of today.
Well, as Nigerians bask in the euphoria of the release of Dapchi students, the Oshile Okeono of Egba has commended the federal government for the prompt response leading to the release by Boko Haram. Oba Adedakpo Tejo-Oshu, in an interview with Segun Lawole, prayed for the release of the remaining girls by their abductors.
The efforts of the government, I would say, in fighting this insurgency is highly commendable. They have, within a short while, been able to recover 101 out of 110 Dapchi students who were captured, so to say. It wasn't so in the past.
And away from that, the National Economic Council, headed by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, this Thursday holds a special session with focus on human capital as a critical component of Nigeria's future economic growth. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that two renowned philanthropists and development experts, Bill Gates and Aliko Dangote, at the meeting made presentations stressing the need for government to prioritize investments in the health, education and infrastructure for a greater country.
Has unmatched economic potential, but what becomes of that potential depends on the choices you make as Nigeria's leaders. The most important choice you can make is to maximize your greatest resource, the Nigerian people. Nigeria will thrive when every Nigerian is able to thrive. If you invest in their health, education, and opportunities, the human capital that we're talking about today, then that will lay the foundation for sustained prosperity. If you don't, however, it is important to recognize there'll be a sharp limit on how much the country can grow.
By 2050, Nigeria is projected to be the third largest population in the world. For this next generation to thrive as adults and drive economic progress, we need to invest in their health and well-being, and in their ability to learn and apply new skills in an ever-changing global economy. That at its core is what we mean by human capital, healthy and productive and well-educated young youth who are then enabled to succeed, lift up themselves and their families and contribute to society through their own ingenuity.
Ahead of 2019 general election, the United Nations mission is in Nigeria to facilitate the revival of the National Peace Committee on Election to ensure peaceful conduct before, during and after the election. The mission under the UN system in Africa and Sahel, being led by its representative, Mohammed Ibn Chambers, has, as part of its consultations, met with relevant stakeholders with the leadership of the People's Democratic Party, PDP.
Quiet, behind-the-scenes diplomacy, good officers, so that at the end of the day, the political elite, of course, in an election is a competitive, very tense moment. But in spite of all that, to always keep the big picture in mind, the supreme interest of Nigeria and that of West African sub-region and Africa as a whole.
In Nigeria, and that, by the grace of God, we achieved in 2015. It is the first time on the record and in the history of our country that you see a civilian, one party, handing over to another party in our country. It has never happened since independence. It was.
Political correspondent Abdullahi Garba Birin Kudu reports that the delegation is also expected to meet with other political parties in Nigeria. Well, for more on politics, let's join Elizabeth in our Lagos Network Center. Hello, Elizabeth.
It's nice to see you, Ogwa, and a warm welcome to Lagos. Women have been challenged to use their numerical strength and wealth of experience to key into the nation's political space to bring in the desired change to the country. Former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo said this at the annual lecture of the Women in Politics Forum in Lagos. Tunde Saiki reports.
As political activities towards the 2019 general elections in Nigeria gathers momentum, the position of women in politics cannot be underestimated. Statistics shows that 52% of the total population of Nigeria are women. Coupled with their remarkable achievements in their various fields of endeavors, the keynote speaker, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, describes that as a plus and a huge advantage if the Nigerian women are really determined to govern the country.
Women need encouragement, empowerment, and being built. Just have to push them.
Organizers of the lecture say the choice of this year's theme, Women, Politics and Nation Building, is informed by the fact that women are not yet really represented in the leadership of the political and governance structures. This they attributed to patriarchal beliefs, cultural perceptions, the nation's political arena, and funds, despite their contributions to national development.
The government has to have affirmative action. They have to have a decision, a policy, a proactive policy that says we want to have a minimum of 30% women.
Politics affects everything about our lives, our businesses, our families. So clearly the time is now, and we really all want to be a part of it this time round.
The forum, Women in Politics, is aimed at sensitizing women with latent interest in politics by helping them to understand the political terrain and how they can utilize it to their advantage. In Lagos, Tunde Saiki, NTA News.
The British Broadcasting Corporation BBC has launched its bureau in Lagos. The bureau will provide media content in 4 different Nigerian languages to inform, educate and entertain Nigerians at home and abroad in local languages. Amaka Owo was there.
Statistics indicate that since the inception of the British Broadcasting Corporation in the 1940s, its audience across the world has continued to increase, with 36 million in Nigeria. In line with the corporation's contributions towards professionalism and desire to ensure best media practices, the Bureau will provide services in Igbo, Yoruba and Pidgin English.
It's really, really important that people going to the BBC Yoruba website or going to the BBC Pidgin website or listening to our 1-minute audio summaries on partner stations are able to get the news from their region.
The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Malam Garba Shehu, expressed optimism that activities of the BBC will foster national integration.
My wish is that BBC will strengthen our unity rather than amplify our diversity in a negative sense.
Chidi Uluka, Zonal Director, NTA Lagos Network Center, who represented the Director General of the NTA and other major key players in the media industry, described the creation of the language channels by the BBC as a giant stride.
It's going to help people to begin to bring out the best of their culture.
It's very good for the industry because I think it has to make us to work hard.
BBC is taking advantage of digital disruption to come into the country and see how they can get some viewers who don't speak English.
The British Broadcasting Corporation promises to provide media content that will tell remarkable stories affecting the lives of Nigerians. In Lagos, Amaka Owo, NTA News.
The Nigerian Navy has handed over bags of cannabis worth more than 150 million naira to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency in Lagos. Musa Tolia reports.
The commander, NNS Beecroft, Commodore Okun Eyo, says was made possible as a result of due diligence by the officers at the Forward Operations Base of the Nigerian Navy in Badagry. Commodore Eyo said not less than 124 bags of cannabis weighing 6 tons were intercepted during the operation.
Apart from the seizure that has been made now, we were able to apprehend one of the suspects
Others were able to, run away. We are going after them. Incidentally, the one that we apprehended is a female. She's in DQ now.
The commander, NNS Beecroft, thereafter handed over the seizures to the area commander of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency.
We are assured by this that the Navy is in the water for us. We are taking this investigation to a logical conclusion.
Commodore Eyo also shed more light on pipeline vandals' hideout recently uncovered by officers of the naval base.
Couldn't find the suspects, but we were able to identify where people's homes were converted to petroleum product storage facilities. We were able to capture over 2,500 25-liter jerry cans.
He, however, assured Nigerians that efforts will be intensified to foster interagency collaboration with a view to protecting critical infrastructure, including petroleum pipelines in the axis. In Lagos, Musa Toliat, NTA News.
And that's a contribution from Lagos at this hour. Over now to Ogwa for more on Nationwide.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We're still talking security. Nigerian police force is embarking on aggressive training of its officers and men for enhanced security management and crime control in line with international best practices. Olajide Bello tells us more.
A month from now, VIPs, entrepreneurs and corporate organizations must find alternative security source other than the police.
A situation where a single entity will have hundreds of personnel for ease of our protection is no longer acceptable. Therefore, in line with earlier directives, all deployments of PMF, CTU and SPU personnel are hereby withdrawn with immediate effect.
This conference of senior commanders of Squadron, Counter-Terrorist Unit and Special Protection Unit with the IGP is perfecting strategy on how to effect the withdrawal directive and smooth takeoff of deployment of personnel to protect schools, especially in the northeast.
You are all aware of the abduction of Dapchi schoolgirls in Yobe State. Consequently, in compliance with the presidential order, I have given a directive that all schools in Yobe, Adamawa and Borno State must have PMA personnel to be deployed to these schools to provide security in these schools.
A training and policing in line with international best practices was conducted for commissioners of police to sharpen their skills as managers in the theatre of policing. In Abuja, Olajide Bello, NTA News.
The Ogun State Command of the Nigerian Police Force has confirmed the killing of 6 suspected armed robbers and kidnappers in a forest along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The Commissioner of Police, Ahmed Ilyasu, affirmed the command's zero tolerance to crime and criminality. Lukman Adefeso reports.
The 6 suspects who were operating from Bayerua village located in the forests at Fidiwa area along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway met their death during a gun battle with the men of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, Ogun State Command. The suspects were said to be responsible for various highway robberies along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and the kidnapping of 2 medical doctors from the University College Hospital, UCH, Ibadan, though already rescued by the police.
If you look at the nature of this terrain, they have taken advantage of the terrain here to make it as a kidnapping den whereby they bring their victims to demand for ransom.
The police commissioner acknowledged the painstaking intelligence operations and professionalism of his men leading to the breakthrough.
We will not allow any criminal to make life uncomfortable for citizens who are using this particular stretch of very important road. This is an international route. It's a gateway to the north, to the south, to all parts of the Federation. We have taken this war to this area to sanitize these gangsters who have decided to make life unbearable for the economic activities of those people who are applying this stretch of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
There's no name you give to this place. If you call it City of Death or whatever name bad name you call it, So, but we thank God for the life of our Commissioner of Police.
Some arms and ammunition were recovered from the suspects, while their hideout is to be demolished in due course.
The Presidential Committee on Prison Reforms and Decongestion has approved the release of 165 inmates from various prisons across Katsina State. Aliu Tuku reports that more than 15 of the inmates have their cases transferred from magistrate and Sharia courts to high courts for speedy trial.
These prisoners have every reason to be happy as they are about to bid goodbye to life behind bars. These followed the intervention of the Presidential Committee on Prison Reforms and Decongestion, which visited Katsina and Daura prisons in continuation of their mandate. 165 inmates with minor offenses were released. Katsina State government paid the sum of 2.6 million naira, being fines for 128, while the Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, represented by Pius Ote, paid the sum of 308,000 naira for 31 inmates. 6 others were released by the chairman of the committee on health, age, and other grounds. The gesture is part of the federal government efforts to decongest the prisons in order to serve as a correctional facility rather than a breeding ground to harden criminals.
We will make recommendations that will upgrade to bring to international standard the prison facilities in Nigeria.
The essence of this exercise is to go around prison formations, make assessments, and see what the government will do.
The committee was at the palaces of emirs of Daura, Alhaji Umar Farooq Umar, and Katsina, Alhaji Abdul Mumin Kabir Usman, as well as the state governor.
We have to look beyond periodic release of inmates and come up with something that is more sustainable and doable.
The committee has proceeded to Jigawa State. Aliu Tukur, NTA News.
Well, the trial of 4 co-defendants of the leader of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, for alleged treason and illegal possession of arms, which commenced at the Federal High Court in Abuja Thursday, has been adjourned till 21st May 2018. The 4 defendants are standing trial before Justice Binta Nyako. Chukunonso Wabweze reports that the defendants are standing separate trials following Nnamdi Kanu's absence in previous court proceedings.
The 4 defendants who are standing trial on 3-count charge are Bright Chimezie, Chidabele Onwudiwe, Benjamin Madubugwa, and David Nwawisi. The prosecution counsel, Shaibu Labalan, opened his case by calling the first witness in the case. The PW1 who was led in evidence testified that the first defendant, Bright Chimezie, took possession of radio transmitter from Lagos to Ihiala in Anambra State. The transmitter was purportedly meant for broadcast of IPOB activities in the southeast, south-south, some communities in Benue and Kogi states. PW1 also averred that Bright Chimezie took money from collaborators of IPOB abroad for the purported welfare of the wives of deceased members of the group. Under cross-examination, defense counsel brought to the fore the issue of whether IPOB at the time of arrest of the defendants was illegal, a question which the PW1 claimed not to know.
We are happy after a long while the case has commenced, after all the hitches, and we are optimistic that we are serious with this matter. And on the next adjourned date, we will continue to call all our witnesses.
They have tendered the statement, the purported statement of the first defendants. It was accepted by the court, and we have asked germane questions to the witness that tendered the statement.
Justice Binta Nyako ruled that the court will entertain bail application of Bright Chimezie on the 28th of March 2018, when the separate trial of Nnamdi Kanu is expected to commence. In Abuja, Chukunonso Wabweze, NTA News.
The House of Representatives has advised the Nigerian Customs Service to stop alleged seizure of goods legitimately acquired by traders in all Nigerian markets. This followed a motion by Representative Aliu Madaki on alleged constant confiscation of goods belonging to traders in Kanu Market by officers of the Nigerian Customs Service.
That is of great concern to me and to almost every fair-minded Nigerian. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, Kano, that is being called the center of commerce, is turning into something different. because of the activities of officers and men of the Nigerian Customs Service.
The problem is the issue of possession. If you are in possession of prohibited goods, you are caught by the law. The only way you can come out of this is to engage ourselves. And that is one of the things that key textiles in the north.
The goods manufactured in Aba or produced in Kano are being seized by customs. That is what nobody will understand, really.
Well, it's time now for our first break. More reports when we return. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. Well, we'll now join our correspondent Hamisu Rogo, who was in Dapchi this morning, for an on-the-spot report of the situation after the return of the schoolgirls. Hello, Hamisu, can you hear me?
Very much, okay.
Now you just returned from Damaturu. You know, what can you tell us about the atmosphere there?
Well, it is an atmosphere of happiness and relief. The parents particularly so, because although they did not lose hope that their children will come back, that they come back really accelerated them. They are very much happy. And in most of the places we went, we find that the families are there receiving people who come to felicitate with them, to share in their hour of joy. And I think it has been everywhere, because in Dapchi, virtually most households are affected. It is like the schoolgirls are all from Dapchi. Very few are outside of it.
Community adjusting, you know, to this development. How is the community adjusting to this development since the release?
It's happy. If you go, the place is calm. You know, there has not been so much, you know, also many people think that the people will be coming out to do a carnival. Well, actually, there is no carnival, but then the people are not in a bad spirit either. They are in very high spirit. They are going about their businesses, and many of them are coming to felicitate with one another and join in the happiness of having to reunite with their loved ones.
Now, what other thing did you notice in Dapchi when you were there?
Yeah, well, there is the security presence now more than when we went when the girls were abducted. And then, of course, also there is, you know, the business activities are flourishing, and they are receiving more guests. In fact, in the morning when we went to the district head office, I've seen a delegation from the United Nations. They came to felicitate with the district head there and even promised to bring in something that will cushion the effect of the trauma the girls must have gone through. And then, obviously, apart from that, okay, another thing is that we have seen the place where the girls were brought, and there were stories from the people who have seen them bring the girls. They were telling us stories of the homily the people were giving them, that their girls should teach their girls how to be disciplined and that they should not go back to school. Thank you, Hamisu. Our correspondent Hamisu Rogo, who was in Dapchi this morning. Now, moving on now, the Ajakuta Steel Company complex has dominated national discourse in recent time, and the consensus seems to be tilted towards the completion of the project to stimulate economic growth. Discussants on NTA's Current Affairs program, Tuesday Live, had similar opinion with professional informed insights that again stressed the enormous potential for the country.
Nations are said to be judged by the level of their industrialization. A key component for the advancement lies in the iron and steel industry, believed to be the backbone of industrialization.
How important industries like railway, locomotive, road and bridge construction, shipbuilding and infrastructural development depend largely on the availability of steel.
There are therefore worries that the Ajakuta steel plant, expected to be a big player in the steel industry, has remained unproductive for 39 years, with narratives of mismanagement, alleged corruption and wrong approach. This has given rise to arguments on international conspiracy.
They don't want to commit the second mistake of allowing Nigeria to be another actor in the steel sector. Whoever should change Nigeria between 1979 to today in Ajakuta's dealing must be brought to book. Go and find out those who are buying for this, who are bidding to take over Ajakuta. The certain people you are seeing, you find out that they have their Nigerian printers.
We must pay a price for our quixotic decisions to unbundle industry. It doesn't happen in any country. We have the manpower to run Ajakuta.
The Ministry of Mines and Steel Development now, they are trying to conclude all the legal arrangements so that at least Ajakuta will now fully put online for development.
For many, the wind of change blows in the way of the Ajakuta steel industry, especially with the present government local content drive for industrialization.
We are carrying out the internal technical audit, and I can assure and tell you that none of those plans are obsolete. Our reactivation is over 80%. By mid-April, the first 55 megawatts of electricity will be on again in Ajakuta.
There are 40 units, as we earlier said, that are completed, that can really be unbundled into various industrial enterprises.
If the saying in local parlance that nobody can build your home except yourself is anything to go by, then Nigerians must collectively work to revive the Ajakuta steel industry for optimal results. Talat Ezarike, NTA News.
Internally displaced persons make case for more facilities as Governor Otom visits camp. Over to Charles now for details in Makudi.
Internally displaced persons in Makudi and Goma local government areas have called on relevant authorities to intensify efforts that will ensure return to their communities. They stated this when Governor Samuel Otom visited the camps as part of confidence-building measures. Correspondent Blessing Omeche Ebute reports.
The IDPs in Abagana, UN camp, LGEA Primary School Daudu and LGEA Primary School Bajimba have been in these camps since the beginning of January this year. They told the governor that although they appreciate the effort of the state government in providing them with shelter, food and relief materials, they want to return to their communities to begin preparations for the next cropping season. Most of these camps are situated in public schools, which means that the pupils in these schools share the same fate as their peers who have been displaced in the crisis areas. The chief nursing officer in one of the camps, Grace Korn, said the camps are in need of medical manpower and hospital equipment, such as drugs, as the women have been given birth in the camp in very extreme circumstances.
Ambulance will not reach here before the time, and a woman deliver, or 2 or 3 of them deliver at the back of the house on the ground.
Governor Samuel Otom assured the people of the state government's efforts to synergize with the federal government and security operatives to bring a permanent end to the crisis.
The IDPs are distressed people, as you can see. They need encouragement, they need support.
Pastor Tom Udia, who conducted church services in all the camps visited, assured the people of God's love and plans for them as he encouraged them not to waver in their faith in God to bring permanent solutions to the crisis. Blessing Omeche Ebute, NTA News.
Says, as part of measures to strengthen the ongoing military exercise, Patuma being carried out in Taraba and 5 other states, a town hall meeting has been organized in Ukari local government area of Taraba State. The meeting brought together various stakeholders to deliberate on how to promote peace and improve civil-military relationship. Murtala Aminu Mutumbiu has the details.
Apart from bush operations, other activities of the military operation I Am Apatuma include town hall meeting and free medical outreach for members of the host communities. This informed the Ukari town hall meeting, where the military interface with the relevant stakeholders, other individuals and organizations in the area, where relevant issues regarding peaceful coexistence and civil-military affairs took center stage.
We have a culture of living before the coming of the so-called politics. If not, we have our own African way of politics before the white house.
In recent times, there was no case of attack in their area. So we have also arrested
a lot of criminals. The records are there.
Governor Darius Jason Ishiaku was represented by the Commissioner of Information and Reorientation, Anthony Galadima Damburam, commended the military for carrying out the operation, which is aimed at curbing the contemporary security challenges in the state. Other speakers include representatives of Chief of Civil Military Affairs of the Nigerian Army, Police, DSS, Khan, and the Muslim Council, as well as the Jukun, Tif, and Fulani communities, among others, in Jalingo. Murtala Aminu Mutumbiu, NTA News.
And from the health sector comes a report that Chairman, Board of Directors of the Federal Medical Center, Makudi, Senator Bello Jibrin, has tasked management center to rise up to the challenge of quality healthcare delivery and service to humanity. He stated this while leading other members of the board on tour of facilities in the various annexes of the hospital. Blessing Omeche Ebute reports.
Since its establishment in 1995, the Federal Medical Center Makudi has been providing tertiary medical services to the people of Benue and beyond. The board members, led by the chairman, were taken round the various units at the old site of the Federal Medical Center Makudi by the management of the hospital. At the permanent site in Api, they inspected some of the ongoing projects, most of which are near completion.
We are going to do our best to collaborate together. We move this place forward. We want the medical center to be better than all the medical centers in Nigeria.
Medical Director of the hospital, Dr. Petiru Inyundu, assured the board members of more effective service delivery and expressed the hope that they would make a case for better funding for the center. The members of the newly inaugurated board earlier met with management and staff of the hospital, where issues bordering on staff welfare were discussed. In Makudi, Blessing Omeche Ebute, NTA News.
That report on quality healthcare delivery runs off a contribution from Makudi. Ogwa is back to you.
Thank you, Charles. Well, another break beckons. We'll be back for the rest of Nationwide.
At the end,
Diba Bari is in our Port Harcourt Network studio for more on Nationwide.
Good to see you, Ogwa. Good evening and welcome to Port Harcourt. Though non-oil commodities for export remains a viable alternative avenue to step up the revenue base of Nigeria. In view of this, a seminar has been held by the South-South Zonal Office of the Nigerian Shippers Council to intimate the people of the need to participate in the export value chain of non-oil commodities for efficient wealth distribution in the country. Aya Prezi reports from Yenagwa.
The program with the theme Facilitating International Trade Through Export of Non-Oil Commodities for Economic Growth serve as platform to engage stakeholders with a view to identifying exportable products and increasing indigenous participation. Chairman of the occasion, His Royal Majesty King Alfred Jetespif, lauded the initiative.
To get every household involved in mushroom production and production of other exportable both food crops and cash crops, we could catch up with China.
We have assembled here today seasoned and experienced professionals, practitioners, and stakeholders in the maritime industry who will rub minds and come up with ideas on the way forward.
I therefore encourage you to take full advantage of the opportunities offered by this seminar to further expand your business frontiers and break into new grounds.
A 12-point communique was issued at the end of the program, wherein stakeholders were advised to access products regulatory agencies like SON and NAFDAC, among others, for professional advice to avoid pitfalls. In Yenagoa, Aya Prezi, NG News.
13 suspects have been arrested by the Navy in Akwa Ibom State and handed over to the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps for being in possession of 606 drums containing what is suspected to be automotive gas oil brought in through River State. The arrest was made by the Nigerian Navy Forward Operating Base Ibaka, Mbo local government area of Akwa Ibom State. Jenny Bassey reports.
Other items seized are 4 outboard engines and 2 pumping machines. Handing over the items and suspects, Navy Captain Yusuf Idris says the Nigerian Navy will not relent in its effort to sanitize its territorial domain. He advised all sea pirates to embrace legitimate means of livelihood, as efforts will not be spared by the Navy to sanitize the waterways in line with the directive of the Chief of Naval Staff.
We will not ever relent in our effort to sanitize the Nigeria's maritime environment. I want to advise those of our brothers on this side, please have a rethink.
Commandant Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Obiageli Obiajulu, who was represented, thanked the Navy for ensuring that illegality in the nation's maritime domain is curbed.
And we assure you that we will do our best in making sure that all these culprits were convicted.
From Ibaka, Mbo, Jenny Bassi, NTA News.
That does it from Port Harcourt. It's back to Ogwa for the rest of the news. Good evening.
Thank you, Diba. And that's a wrap on Nationwide. I am Ogwa Vivian Anilibia. Thank you for watching.